There we go. There. So, what does it mean to motivationally interview? This is to help to encourage a patient or a client or a peer into a behavior change. This could be anything from smoking or poor eating habits, um, drinking. The guiding principles I've uh, collected come from the Motivational Interviewing in Healthcare textbook by Stephen Rolnick, William R. Miller, and Christopher C. Butler. And who uses these techniques? So we have dentists, doctors, counselors, nurses, and other health educators. Um, Now, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to list the 4 guiding principles. And I want you to remember the acronym RULE. It can help you to remember. So we have the first one, R, which stands for resist. That's resisting the writing reflex. So the patient should be the one to voice the arguments for change. If you are being the one to correct or lead or direct your client or patient into change, you're taking all the good lines, and having your client or your patient to be the one to voice their reasons for changing goes a long way. The second one, U, stands for understand. As a practitioner, we need to understand your patient's motivations. You need to be interested in your patient's own concerns, values, and motivations for change. L stands for listen. You need to be able to listen to your patient with empathy. And the answers most likely lie within the patient, and finding them requires some listening. And the last one, E, is empower. Being able to empower your patient. Helping your patient to explore how they can make a difference in their own health. The patient's active role in thinking aloud on why and how to change is more likely to do something. They're more likely to do something differently following the consultation. Feel free to unmute yourself. I'm just interested in knowing if anybody's ever heard of the guiding principles.
I'm familiar with the concept of motivational interviewing. This is my first experience with this acronym and concepts.
I second that.
I'm not familiar with it, but I've certainly used all elements in a professional capacity.
And I'm not familiar with it, but I can see how it can be used for faculty development when I'm consulting with faculty.
Very good. I like that you guys are all somewhat exposed to it. Now, post-assessment, if you can, in the chat, write down the 4 guiding principles.
Without looking at my notes?
Yeah. Yeah, do you guys remember the 4 guiding principles? Perfect. Excellent. That's awesome. Everybody got it. Thank you, guys. Does anybody have any questions?
Could summarize and just like really reinforce and really celebrate them in the summary.
Yeah. So the acronym RULE, or resist, understand, listen, empower, are the guiding principles for motivational interviewing. And this can help with creating behavior change for clients, patients, or your peers in general. It's helping to expand on communication and get people to think on how they might tackle a behavior change.
Does the book obviously probably go into more in depth on each of those? Do you feel
Oh,
like
yes.
tools from the book?
Yeah, this is just from chapter 1.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole other dive into to listening and different core skills that you can use to try and motivate people towards behavior change. It's a
I'm
very
curious.
good book. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Andrea.
No, it's okay. Sorry. I'm curious how you deal with resistant patients. Like if there are any tools, techniques for dealing with people who are reluctant to share any of their values or motivations, or just reluctant to participate.
Yeah, honestly, educating on different areas really goes a long way, and just trying to understand the client and where they're coming from, getting a little bit more on their background and why they might have certain views on things. Actually, chapter 2 dives into that on resistance, and it talks about ambivalence and how, like, we know, like, for example, a smoker, they would know that smoking isn't healthy, and well, they know that they should change, and there's always a like, but I enjoy smoking, or but I have friends that smoke and it's hard for me to change. And walking through that ambivalence and expanding on how different areas that they might take to try and push their boundaries a little bit.
So BOPS wise, I just want to emphasize that you finished BOPS in 5 minutes. And this is just conversation. All right. Are you all aware of that? Yeah. Because when you finished the summary, well, you were finished at the post test. And then I said, well, what about, just add this one for good measure. And so you did, and you were just over the 5 minutes. And so now we're just chatting about the book. But the lesson itself is complete. So
All right, that's good to know that I was within the time frame.
well within and
Yeah.
following the structure, like all of the elements were there. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, kind person delivering things to Andrea.
Yes, my husband definitely gets a shout out for making me a brain food smoothie.
Nice. Very nice.
Go, Kirk.
Okay. So let's go to feedback. And Kevin, now that we're in the sort of the third round of feedback, what specifically were you working on? What are you happy with? And what specifically would you like in the way of feedback? And Kevin, just saying, you could ask them to get creative. You could maybe even ask them to use, smell or something, or you could ask for a wrap, or you could ask for, I don't know, something graphic that they would draw for you. You could ask them to be a little more creative because you're celebrating your third round of feedback. So however
Okay.
you want it. You don't have to be playful. You can be straight up and incisive. Absolutely, whatever you want.
Well, I think I'll leave that up to them. They've all been here to listen. So if you guys want to get creative, feel free. As for feedback, I look forward to it, and I know that I wish I'd had a little bit more time to read over the book and be able to give a little bit more information on resistance and how I might be able to tackle that with regards to like ambivalence and different things. I was looking at it actually before I decided to flip back and change my presentation around a little bit, but yeah, I personally feel like I could have been a little bit more prepared.